The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, Lord.
A leper approached Jesus and knelt down, imploring him, "If you will, you can make me clean." Moved with compassion, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, "I so will. May you be made clean." And immediately the leprosy left him, and he was made clean. And Jesus sternly charged him and sent him away at once, saying to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer for your cleansing what Moses commanded for a proof to them." But he went out and began to talk freely about it and to spread the news, so that Jesus could no longer openly enter a town, but remained out in desolate places, and people were coming to him from every direction. My dear brothers and sisters, the Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
You may be seated. Good morning and happy Valentine's Day. As many of you know, today is the feast day of St. Valentine. And while many of you will be exchanging gifts of flowers or chocolates, maybe you'll be whispering sweet nothings into your sweetheart's ear. For me, that will be with a little dog that stole my heart about 6 months ago. But I thought you may like to know a little history on the patron saint of love. So Father Valentine was a priest in the 3rd century. And during this time, Rome was ruled by Claudius II, or what he became known as Claudius the Cruel, because he was a tyrant. He loved going to war. And he did so much that he was depleting his army. And so he decided he would send his soldiers out into the community and ask them, or actually kind of demand of them, if they would become soldiers. So his soldiers went out into the villages and they asked the men of the villages, would you like to be part of this army? And they went, why would I want to do that? I have a nice, peaceful family at home. Why would I want to go to war and possibly lose my life and leave my wife a widower? No thanks, it's not for me. So his soldiers went back to Claudius and they reported back their findings, and Claudius was completely enraged. He was like, if they don't have a family to go home to, then they'll want to be soldiers. So I'm banning all marriages. So he did. He banned every marriage. So what happened was the priests stopped performing marriages, except our friend, Father Valentine. He was a true man to get heart. So if a couple came to him and wanted to be married, he would marry them secretly. But apparently it wasn't secret enough, because it got back to Claudius that he was performing marriages, and he had him arrested. Whilst Father Valentine was in prison, the jailer came to him, and he said, my daughter needs an education. She's blind, and I can't send her to school. Would you please educate her? So Father Valentine, of course, agreed to this, and the daughter came every day for a lesson. And one day, when she was with Father Valentine, she confessed to him, I wish I could see. And a miraculous event happened. The cell filled with light, and her sight was restored. News of this event got back to Claudius, and now Father Valentine is in good favor with Claudius. But Father Valentine made one very crucial request, or one fatal request of Claudius. He said, if you believe in this event, then you will be baptized, and you will announce your faith in God and Jesus. Of course, this did not set well with Claudius. He was so angry at that request that he ordered Valentine to be put to death. While he was put back into his cell, he went to the jailer and he said, could I please see your daughter again? I'm in love with her. The jailer refused, saying it was too dangerous. So what he did was he said, well, Father Valentine, you can write her a letter. So Father Valentine sat down and he penned a letter to her professing his love. And he signed it, from your Valentine. So we've just heard a story of how your faith could cost you your life. But in today's gospel reading, we actually hear how your faith can restore your life. We have this story of Jesus and the leper. And let me first put into context what it was like to have the disease of leprosy. I mean, we heard a little bit about it in the first reading, but the disease is a bacterial disease, and it can lay dormant in the body for many years, sometimes as many as 20 years. And it slowly debilitates your nervous system to where you start to get lesions on your body. And then what happens is you have crippling paralysis of your hands and your feet. And then the most cruel part of the disease is that it starts to rob you of your appendages. You start to lose your fingers and your toes, and then your limbs. It was a very debilitating disease. But also, as we heard in the first reading, you're marked as unclean. This didn't mean just physically, but it meant spiritually as well, because you did something to put yourself out of favor with God. You were being punished. So that's what society did. They punished them. So one thing about the story of Jesus and the leper that always makes me a little sad is that we don't know the name of the leper, and I feel like that takes a little bit of his humanity away. So for the sake of the rest of my story, I'm going to name the leper. Sounds a little silly, but just bear with me. The name of the leper, I'm giving him the name Tim. So imagine what it was like to be Tim in the time of Jesus, because there was no cure for leprosy. So imagine the first time you find one of those lesions on your body. The time when you have the dread in the pit of your stomach that makes you realize your fate. So you find the lesion for the very first time, and what it tells you is that you now have to leave your home. And if you have a family, you have to leave your family as well, because you have to go live in the outskirts of town. You also have to stop going to the marketplace, so you have to scavenge for your food because you don't know where to get your food from. And you also can no longer worship. And I imagine at a time like this, you would start to lose your faith. But not Tim. Tim remembers that Jesus can heal. So he seeks out Jesus, and he finds him. And he gets down and he begs, "If your will, you can make me clean again." And Jesus feels his faith. And he reaches out and he touches him, which is unheard of during this time, to touch a leper. And he tells him, "I will make you clean again." And he does. So we have this beautiful story of your faith bringing you life. And imagine during some periods of your time, your faith can be tested like Tim's. And well, maybe there's times in your life where you test faith. So many years ago, I was on a hiking trip in Yosemite. And we had hired a guide to take us to all these hiking trails. And he takes us up to Fresno Dome, which is this high peak. And when you get to the peak of it, you could see out over this vast valley. It's an incredible sight. And I don't know about you, but whenever I'm in nature, I feel like I am closer to God, especially at that high elevation. And I was a fledgling new Christian at the time, and I decided I'm going to climb up onto this boulder and kind of meditate over what I'm looking at. And I'm sitting there on the boulder, and in the quiet stillness of my heart, I say, "God, if you're with me, give me a sign." There I am, trying to test my faith. Well, he heard me all right, and he gave me a sign. The wind rushed up on me, and out of the corner of my eye, I see a little chipmunk scurry up and sit next to me on the boulder. I was like, "What?" I may have said some other things, because remember, I'm a fledgling Christian, and I'm still learning how to express myself properly. But I was completely in awe of what I was seeing, and I looked down and I say, "Is that you, God?" But I already knew the answer. I knew he was with me. There is one thing that St. Valentine, Tim, myself, and all of you have in common. We know that God is always with us. In the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, God is always with us. And now I'm forgetting how I was going to end my homily. But yeah, so whenever during those times where your faith is tested, just remember my little chipmunk. And it'll remind you that God is always with you. I give you this homily with the deepest love of my heart. Your Deacon Tammy. And that, my brothers and sisters, is the gospel of the Lord.
Thank you.